Hello there everyone, uxwbill here once again with another computer related video. And hopefully this one will go better than the last one. It featured this naughty compact Presario CDS 520 down here, whose long-suffering hard drive finally just hung it up before I could do a proper demonstration of its operating system software and special compact supporting applications for some of the special hardware. This demonstration I hope will go a lot better, but I don't know. Usually some kind of disaster is about the best I can hope for around here. Back a couple months ago, I dug my Macintosh SE30 out of mothballs, and it reluctantly struggled back to life after being feared lost for a very long time. I believe the logic board in it needs to be recapped. And I demonstrated a program that I also feared was lost, the Buick Dimensions disk. Or rather just the application, because the disk had long since gone missing. Well, a couple of different YouTubers pointed out that there was a PC version, and I think it was also pointed out to me that a couple of other GM divisions also produced such promotional diskettes and programs for their automobiles at the time, which would have been the early 1990s. So what I have here now is not only the PC version of the program, but also the brochures that would have come with the Buick Dimensions software for both 1989 and 1990. And I actually happened upon these after doing a web search, and I saw them listed for sale on a website called bonanza.com, I believe it was. So I signed up and I bought them from the person that was offering them shortly after making that video about the Macintosh SE30 and the Buick Dimensions program. They arrived in the mail several months ago, but I just never got around to making a video about them. So without further ado, I'll fire up this old PS2 Model 57 SLC and we'll see what these are all about. Okay, this thing's working on booting up, and while it does that, let's take a look at these books that came with each of the diskettes. This is the 1991, and it tells you how to use the software. There's some kind of a lightly transparent page there that says Buick. A beautiful picture of part of the Grand Canyon. That is really stunning. I may have to scan that in. Discussion of the particular car models in question. There's a LeSabre, Electra, or Park Avenue. Over there's a Riviera. The Riata, their sporty convertible of the time that nobody really understood what it was. More information about the Electra, Park Avenue, and Ultra. And I believe back then the original Ultra was supercharged, just as it was toward the end of the model lineup. And of course, the good old body-on-frame, V8, rear-wheel drive, and most probably American-made Buick Estate Wagon. And then a little blurb at the bottom about Buick Dimensions 1990. Another light-colored page, and the disc itself, which is a picture disc, as you can see. There is, as you can see, a picture diskette, 5¼ inch, low density, for the Century. Well, it's labeled as the Century. And then there is another one featuring the Regal. And thank you for your interest in Buick. Go ahead and turn that light off. Centennial Certificate enclosed. The Great American Road belongs to Buick. Whoops. And the letter inside this thing, after having dropped it on the floor, basically reads as follows. Dear computer owner, thank you for requesting the all-new 1990 Buick Dimensions program. The information in your program is designed to help you make an intelligent purchase decision. It contains facts and figures on all 1990 Buick models. Your 1990 Dimensions program celebrates the Great American Road, which for 100 years has linked our system of national parks. The 4 program sections allow you to tour the Great American Showroom full of 1990 Buick models, see technology in motion on those 1990 Buick models, take the 1990 Buick Challenge to test your knowledge of the Great American Road, or hit the road with Buick's unique computerized road atlas. To show our appreciation for your interest in Buick, we are also including a special Centennial Certificate. If you purchase a new and unused previous or current model year Buick between November 15th, 1989 and September 28th, 1990, you may redeem your Centennial Certificate for a Great American picnic basket, shown here, to take with you on your tour of the Great American Road. The total number of Centennial Certificates available is limited to the first 150,000 Buick Dimensions programs issued. Complete details are on the reverse side of this certificate. Thank you again for test driving Buick by means of your Dimensions program. After you've reviewed it, we invite you to visit your local Buick dealer for an actual test drive. Sincerely, R.E. Coletta, General Sales and Service Manager. And then on the back are the program rules and the entry slip, which I probably ought to go ahead and send into GM if for nothing else, if for nothing other than a pretty good laugh. Because I dare say they won't honor it any longer, if anybody at General Motors these days even remembers it. It's the picture diskettes that really sell me on the whole thing, though. Those are really, really cool looking and really well done. Plus, whoever owned these brochures previous to me took very good care of them, and while I continue to drop that little blow-in card on the floor, it's my intention to take very good care of these as well. So I've actually copied the diskettes to the hard drive of that computer, and will be taking further measures to preserve them and possibly make them available for download at some unknown point in the future. And now just a quick look at the 1989 book, which is not hugely different from the 1990 volume. Only they changed the mounting of the discs. One of them goes in the front and features the riata crossing a bridge there. The other one trades the picnic dishes for a much more interesting software certificate, signed by the same R.E. Coletta as the 1990 letter. This one offers you up to $100 worth of software from a special Buick-issued catalog containing software for desktop personal microcomputers. I would like to see that catalog sometime, if anyone out there has a copy. This talks about the history of the Buick motor car from the earliest years to the later years as technology improved. It features some very nice pictures of the cars. And the estate wagon with the wood grain sides returns once again at the back of the book. Maybe they put it back there because not too many people would have been interested in it at the time. I have no idea. And then there's a sort of transparent page over here that says Buick Premium American Motor Cars. And the other disc for the program featuring the Buick Riviera is back there as well. Here we are, ready to run things. Now it's got to be said, the same people that developed the Macintosh program also developed the PC versions. But one thing that will become immediately obvious is just how much the Macintosh had it all over the PC in terms of graphics ability. The PC program runs in CGA resolution at best. And as you can see, even though the Macintosh program was monochrome only, it had a much higher quality presentation. This is the 1989 disc, highlighting the Buick Riviera and Riata, the Great American Roadshow, Buick Through the Years, Technology at Work, Smart Lease, and the Buick Challenge, along with a Buick Riata automobile at the bottom. Now you can press the 1 here, and it takes you to the discussion of the 2 cars that were the flagship models for that year. It should be said that this program does not always run 100% properly. Maybe it wasn't intended to run on a computer as fast as this, because back in 1989 and 1990, only the more well-heeled among us would have actually had access to a machine sporting a 386 or better microprocessor. The 486 would have just been about to hit the market at the time that these programs were brand new. And while people probably did have better video adapters, from what I found of computers made around that time period, most of them were AT clones, that is to say 286s, with CGA graphics. So I'm sure that General Motors and the people who developed this program just saved themselves the trouble of doing anything that would have looked better on a computer with fancier graphics hardware, since most people wouldn't have had it. You can go in here to read about the Riviera, and the first and probably most entertaining entry of all is the Electronic Control Center. This definitely has some fun things in it. You can pause the video right here to read the text if you want to. But if you don't, I'm going to go ahead and go through the various controls here. The first control is climate, and the way that this works, this is an interactive demonstration. Some of the things have letters that are highlighted in red or drop shadow inverse video. As you can see, the 3 fan control options there have letters that are highlighted as such, and if I press low, you can see the fan slows down. If I press auto, it's almost like there's an implied medium speed there, and if I press high, that picture of the fan really gets to moving. What's interesting is that if you set a temperature, the logic in the program was not written such that the fan will actually speed up. However, the PC speaker does peep as you hit buttons. Yet the fan keeps on doing what it was doing before, even though in the real-life automobile the fan should have sped up, since the interior temperature is now warmer than that of the outside. The idea behind this was actually to show what appeared on a monochrome computer screen in the central dashboard of the car around the instrument panel. Here's the radio. We can go ahead and have a demonstration of that. It's a very high-end radio, as you can see. Interestingly, changing the band does nothing to change the displayed frequency. You can choose an equalizer display, but of course it's not real, although it is adjustable. You can choose a balance button, but it does nothing. And the people who programmed this did put in different melodies for the various FM frequencies. It just wraps around repeating the same tunes over and over again. So it wouldn't be a very exciting radio to listen to. If you go over to the third screen here, it shows you the radio in more detail. And even though these options don't all have an effect, for example AM, that's interesting. I didn't notice it doing that before, but I guess it does change the display a little bit, although that would definitely be an uncommon expression of the frequency. Still plays the same tunes on AM and FM though. There's a DNR button, although it has no obvious effect. You can get a live gauge preview, and unfortunately it won't let you have any fun with this. You can press buttons, but the gauges don't read like you would expect them to. They just pulse up and down. And of course the voltage and temperature ones never do anything. This is not a nice thing to do to your brand new Buick Riviera, of course. And then you can see that there is a clock, brightness, system tone, and diagnostic menu. The clock actually does show the correct time somewhere in this screen. Then there's a couple of other features that the Buick Riviera offers, along with explanations, which of course you can pause the video to read if you so desire. The integrated cellular phone sounds like a real interesting idea. It was certainly far ahead of its time. There's a demonstration here in the anti-lock braking system as to how all this stuff works. Every now and again you'll see some graphical corruption in this program. But here's the demonstration. We're cruising down the highway. F9 for panic stop with ABS. OMG, a car! Unfortunately, you only get to do the demonstration once per trip. This program is much less fun than the Macintosh version, which lets you play with things to your heart's content, if that's what you've got on your mind to do. You can see there's some graphical corruption here discussing the remote keyless entry system, but you can definitely play with some of the things on the remote by hitting various buttons on the keyboard. For example, if you watch very carefully, I'll unlock the doors for you here. See that? I just unlocked the doors. Now I'll lock them again. Let's open the trunk, which causes graphical corruption, but you get the idea. And then I can turn on the interior lights. What fun! And then there's a discussion of the suspension system on the car. So we've learned all about the Riviera. Let's learn about the Riata now. They actually have to helpfully tell us how to pronounce it. Talks about the 3800 V6 engine. A little bit of a graphics drawing error there once again. You can see it just lets you loop around, and when you're done you can finally hit escape. Then they go on to talk about the suspension. The electronic control center is the same as on the Riviera. They talk about retained accessory power, and then they talk about technical data and pricing. The interesting thing is, when you choose this option, it actually breaks you back out into text mode once again. The same thing is true of the other options. Only here it tells us the Riata is so well equipped, the only options are an electric sunroof and a 16-way adjustable driver's seat. Rock and roll. There's a spreadsheet you can use to determine the pricing and payments of your car, as well as how much you might get for your trade-in and how that will affect what your final monthly payment would be. There's technical data, talking about the gear ratios in the car, the size of the engine, type of the fuel system, bore and stroke, compression, horsepower, all that good stuff. Everything that you could imagine. And then comparisons. The interesting thing about the comparisons is there's only one foreign brand that shows up here that's not owned or operated by General Motors. And that, to me, highlights some of the problem that General Motors had with divisions competing amongst themselves. And I think that ultimately hurt them in the end. Because the person who's going to buy a Chevy Corvette or a Cadillac Alante is not likely the person who's going to buy a Buick Riata. They all appeal to different parts of the market. So it's silly to compare them here. But that is the entirety of this particular program for the 1989 model year. And when you go ahead and choose to exit it, it goes and draws a little program, shuts the book, and then it does a Buick Tri-Shield emblem in ASCII art. Isn't that cool? Let's go forward a year now and see what 1990 had to offer for us. You'll notice this looks a lot more like the Macintosh version of the disc, but the PC of the time did not typically have anything more than simple beeper sound hardware, and apparently they didn't feel like getting creative with the system timer to produce other sounds, so all we get is just a quiet intro featuring the Great American Showroom for all these cars, as well as details about each and every one of them. In glorious CGA graphics once again. And then of course a look at the technology behind the vehicle. And again, you can see there is definitely some graphical corruption going on there. How the airbag works. A little more graphical corruption there at the bottom. How the 3800 series V6 works. Again, with some definite graphical issues there. Wonder what the CD player does. Well, it definitely seems to have some problems loading CDs, I'll give it that. You can tell the program is definitely clock speed sensitive. I love the way the key zaps the thief. So there's definitely some similarity between this and the Macintosh version, but it's clear that the Macintosh version had a much better presentation just due to the superior graphics and sound quality available on that computer at the time. So there you have it, folks. That's a quick look, well, a relatively quick look, at the various Buick Dimensions programs for 1989 and 1990. Thank you for watching, and feel free to leave a comment if you have one. I think it's kind of amazing that I got through this demonstration without any difficulty, because earlier when I was setting all this up, this monitor was definitely having some deflection problems, and so I'm a little surprised that it did not go bang or misbehave during this video.